Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mile High Sports Symposium. I am JT Matthews at JTMatthews01 on the Twitter, and I am here with the doctor, Nicholas Manning at DR_N Manning on Twitter as well. And, oh no, Cam's already at it. Cam's already at it in the comments, but that's okay. Thank you for joining us, and this is going to be all Broncos today because that's really the most important sport that's going on, and kind of the most important sport in town, if we're being real.
You're being real.
You're being real. Doc, how you doing today? How are we feeling? I know we had an injury in the family.
Yeah, we're doing all right. My daughter broke her fifth metacarpal. I don't know if it's karst. I don't know which one is the hand and which one's the foot, but she broke a bone in her foot, handling like a champ. So actually really impressed with her attitude.
I think that's a metatarsal. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, that thing. I'm super impressed by her attitude. She's the really, really active kid, and now she can't go running around. And so far, so good. She's been really great about it. So, yeah. What about you? How are you, Saw?
I'm good. I'm feeling bad for you. You know, I need to send her a little message that I don't want to like draw any extra attention to it. Be like, oh, it's so bad. I'm sorry, But I also want her to know that we're gonna miss her in soccer and that sort of thing. So, just kind of biding time. I didn't know how soon was too soon. So, I'll get her a little message here in a little bit. But I'm glad she ultimately is gonna be okay. And it's one of those things. We've had two kids with broken things. I've had a broken arm with Luke, and
and of course those are like the two most athletically driven ones. So my theory is, and will be again, that won't be the last.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And especially with those two. So you had Zane and Bo to it, and the younger two, Lane and Eva, just by sheer clumsiness. Like
for sure.
Those ones, they're gonna accidents always happen at home, Like those are those kids.
For sure.
For sure. All right. We made it, baby.
We're here.
We made it through a Rocky season. Even though they're still playing. Made it through Rocky season. We recouped from heart-wrenching losses in the playoffs for our Denver Nuggets and our Colorado Avalanche. I'm still surviving after Florida State's embarrassing 0-2 start. But I'm excited because it's NFL Week 1 and let's bow.
Let's bow. I lied because I did forget. Since Cam is a Huskers fan, he must be looking forward to the CU Nebraska game, which I'm actually looking forward to as well.
Yeah,
I watched the North Dakota State game. It was a lot of fun to watch. Travis Hunter's legit. Shedeur Sanders is pretty legit, which I think we knew about both of them. But it was a good reminder.
The question that they have to answer is what's the rest of them?
But
they bring relevance back. North Dakota State, 9 championships in the last 14 seasons. They are no fluke, right? They had 3 quarterbacks over a 10-year period get drafted. 2 in the first round, actually 2 in the top 3. So that's pretty dope. Not gonna lie, that is a program. So that win should excite people, hopefully. But last year's Nebraska CU game was but they both were really mid, as the kids say. This year, you got Dominic Raiola, who was the 5-star quarterback recruit forever, flopping schools all over the place, lands with his dad on the coaching staff in Nebraska.
Yep.
And then you got CU with all that smoke that Prime brings. So, for all of the you like them or you don't, people are paying attention to what's going on in Boulder. Not so much Fort Collins right now.
Yeah, that was
they'll bounce back. Texas is maybe one of the, if not top 4 most talented physical rosters, right, in the nation, and they'll be playing for a national championship this year, I have no doubt. So no shame in that game, but not great. Now that we got all that processed,
now we go.
We got the next 55 minutes to talk Broncos with Shaw again. As you'd say. So where, my man? do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, let's start with a contract extension for one Patrick Surtain.
But I thought they weren't going to pay their people.
Right? I think that if you're going to pay someone, Pat Surtain is the one to pay today, especially. It's a 4-year, $96 million contract extension, $77.5 million guaranteed for Surtain. I think it kicks in. Is it next season or the following season?
The following season.
Yeah, 2026, right?
Yep.
So we still get him at a bit of a bargain, and then he's going to get paid as he should be.
As he should. And the largest contract ever given to a defensive back. However, I look at it and it's like $29 million for right, like the best player at imperative decision. It's tackle, it's quarterback, it's receiver, it's rusher, and it's corner. Right, like those are the spots you got to be. I think he only held up 4 fingers. Anyway, so that's big. It is. It's big. So first, Quinn Miners gets the really big extension. Now you got Pat coming in. You can see why he was so calm when everyone was asking him about, like, tell me about the things. Like, it'll work itself out. I think it was clear from jump that the Broncos were comfortable with paying him what they were going to have to pay him. He's shown it. He's been durable. He's a good locker room guy. Doesn't get in trouble. Guy's a all-world player, and I'm glad that they are targeting those kind of guys, even if they are from the old regimes.
Yeah,
we've had a few, and paying them. So big shout out to Pat Surtain. And you know what? I'm going to give some love to my man George Payton, who caught us so much heat. What does he even do here if he's not the one driving the ship? Why should it be? I think Sean Payton recognized George Payton's ability to eye talent. When you have 3 different coaches in your first 3 years on staff, it's hard to pick groceries when the cook keeps changing. So not to bail them all out, some of his free agent moves were terrible. Randy Gregory, it's like, oh, come on, bro. Frank Clark, like, stop. But you sign 2 out of the 3 of your first picks, with potentially, an additional 3rd rounder being Baron Browning, who will get paid, and then who knows, maybe Javonte sticks around on a running back appropriate deal after he balls out. But nice to see that Pat Surtain's back. Do you have any qualms with the contract, with the length, with the blah, blah, blah?
No, I mean, he's so young. Like the length could have been pretty much anything. It would have been maybe a little more concerning if it was shorter. A shorter period of time. So the fact that you've got him locked up for the next, what is that, next 60 years or so?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to essentially get 10 years of his prime athletic, right? So it's going to fall off at age 29 is when it ends. Which again, then that's when you get the 2-year deals or 1-year deals or whatever that might be. He still might be in absolutely peak phenomenal shape, or he could also be winding down a little bit, like we've seen with Patrick Peterson, so Tre'Davious White. Guys just aren't the same, and I think that takes you like right to that spot. And then depending on where the team's at, how much money they got, it's an opportunity to make that call then. But he's not even as good as he can be yet.
Oh no, yeah, I mean.
It's nice to pay a guy not just for what he's done, but what he will do, and what he will do is going to be pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of room for growth. I think we saw a little bit of a regression last year, and I think part of that had to do with culture, had to do with just a new schemes, a different kind of defense than they had been playing previously.
Yeah,
it's another year to grow under this coaching staff, and I obviously I'm a fan of everything that Pat Surtain does.
Right.
And I think we knew when we got him in the draft, you and I at least felt super comfortable with that pick, and we're really excited about that pick. So I think it's just, he's worked, he's put in the work, he's showing leadership at a young age. He's obviously going to be a linchpin of this defense, and I think it's just something to grow, a player to grow with, and on a young team that has some promise. And I think on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, so I'm just to share this part. I'm super excited in the sense of, right, so now we're looking at the top contracts of cornerbacks in the NFL as of now, according to SpotRack. I did not calculate these. I do not have that in my phone talk. Highest average salary for sure. The best beats Jair Alexander by 3,000 million gazillion dollars. In an average, but the part that I think is super dope is this line right here, where he only takes up 9.4% of the cap compared to Marshawn Lattimore and Alexander, who for their totals and dead money, et cetera, they count more against the cap than what you're at here. So, under 10% for a guy making $25 million, that's pretty huge. And with the salary cap going up, the Broncos have excess money next year due to some contracts falling off. So money was not going to be a problem. They put themselves in a good financial position to go. In 2 years, that contract's going to look like a bargain. It's going to be, how did you get him to sign that? The feel, and kudos all the way around. Pat deserved to be the highest paid player at that position. Broncos deserve to try and keep one of their homegrown talents as they round this curve towards world domination. And having Pat Surtain be a part of that, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, you're setting the market essentially. And it's
not set the market, never let the market set you. Right?
Yeah, and it's a position that we're probably not going to sign, at least no one on the roster now, to a high money deal. So I think that ultimately you knew where the value was, and you were willing to go pay him ahead of time just to make sure that you got it at the dollar value that you wanted.
Yeah, and now that's not something that will get asked all of the time. It is not something that will get reviewed all the time. It is something that is, and they can move on. It was going to happen anyway. Let's roll.
Yep.
Let's see. Yeah, nice job, Cam. Yep, like we had said, Cam said, essentially, right? So it's this season's next year, which is the 5th year option, which puts him in, I think, like the top 10 of it, and then the big money kicks in after. However, with cash over cap, so with cash, they gave $77.8 million in guarantees, which you have to have that in escrow 2 weeks from that contract, which means you have to actually have the money ready to go. And that's going to lower the cap too. So overall, nice job. Nice job all the way.
Yep. Big fan. Let's talk about the quarterback. And now, one of 6 players voted team captain for your Denver Broncos this season. Bo Nix came out today that Bo Nix was voted as the captain for this Denver Broncos team, and is the first rookie since Floyd Little to be named the captain. So that's pretty high praise. Obviously, we knew Nix coming in is going to be a little bit older, a little more seasoned, has a lot of games under his belt. I'm not sure anyone really expected him to be a team captain, though. That came as a bit of a surprise to me, a pleasant surprise, but still a surprise.
Yeah. So to me, it really is, in the sense of kind of the traditional old heads, and I'm excited about it because and they could have skewed it. Who knows? We all know that part, but the fact that the other players voted for him, to me, is a really huge signal that the adults in the room know that this kid, right, that he works and that he's a player. So if it's Justin Fitzgerald, Stidham, and he's starting early, is he the captain? I don't know if anyone's looking up to him and trying to emulate their game after Stidham. So that's big. I think it was interesting is I think a few people were shocked that it was Quinn Miners, just kind of pivoting a little bit to the pool of offensive captains. Maybe it'd be Bowles, maybe it'd be McGlinchey. And my vote one is he's been in the NFL for 4 years now. And he is an elite player at his position. So I think sometimes if you have guys that work hard and are really, really great at their craft, it kind of makes sense. They're like, they recognize that. So if he talks about how to get there, how to do this, where to maneuver, what were some of the areas that he was able to improve over time, they're going to be here. And we know that he's going to be here for a long haul. And unlike McGlinchey or Bowles? Probably not. You don't know. Yeah, I get this. Cam says might have been a surprise due to the fact that McGlinchey was last season. Yeah, so it must mean, to be honest, that probably the players themselves are voting. Right? That was Sean's pick last year. I don't think he made it Democratic last year. I mean, my surprise was, how's Tremont Smith not a special teams captain? But you got to pick the kicker.
Yeah, well,
come on, guys, pick a football player. No, but for real, do you have any issues with these guys, or any thoughts about why doesn't matter?
Yeah, I think that if you think your quarterback's up to stuff, you should probably be one of your captains. And I think that that's a good sign. Quinn Miners makes sense. He may be young as well, but I think this is a young team. I think there are veterans, obviously, on both sides of the ball, but really you're looking at an infusion of youth and young talent, and I think that you need guys that are going to set that tone. Nix is one of those guys. Miners is one of those guys. Obviously, Court has been with the team for a while now, and I think guys respect him, and he goes out and he puts up his numbers, and he does so quietly, and he's a contributor in the community.
Yep.
Singleton, who I think is going to have I don't know about a breakout season, but I think he's got some I think he's got some Pro Bowl potential. This might be a bit of a hot take, but I think that it makes sense. He's going to be kind of a mainstay in that linebacker group, and he's probably not going to see the sideline very often.
No.
That's whatever. That's fine. Kicker, like you said. And then Pat.
Maybe he's just really good at the flip.
Yeah, for sure. But no issues. I think it's cool. I'm excited about it. I think it's, it says a lot about what's going on in that locker room and the kind of culture that they're cultivating there. And I'm excited to kind of see how that trickles into the season, because I think right now it all seems positive.
Yeah, the momentum's good. Let's ride the lightning, shall we? No, I think that's like do cocaine. Let's take the momentum forward. E equals MC squared.
Yeah, no, I think it will pay dividends moving forward. At least that's my feeling. It will, obviously you got to play the games. They've got to put something on paper. But so far so good. Let's get into week 1, matchup 1. Your Denver Broncos played in Seattle, which is always tough.
Yeah.
Interesting first game for a rookie and coming into the league. An interesting atmosphere to go into. How are you feeling about week 1? Let's kind of talk about the pros and cons of the matchup, and where you think the Broncos have an edge and where they might be a little overmatched. So kick us off, and I'll add my 2 cents.
Yeah. So we got ourselves a matchup with Mike McDonald, that's the new head coach for the Seattle Sea Pigeons, and the Denver Broncos. So I'm going to share a little bit. I'm going to share in mood. PFF, I think, does a good job of just kind of give you a visual about where where some of the matchups might be. So really blitz heavy. All right, so Mike McDaniel, formerly the defensive coordinator with Baltimore for the last 2 seasons, extremely aggressive in their play calling. We'll try and mix and match on the back, but we'll do a lot of man. So that really expensive guard that we got, you are necessary. So I think some of the matchups that should excite us are so Tariq Woolen 2 years ago was a fantastic find. I think led the league in interceptions. Was great. Was a guy that I would have wanted the Broncos to take a swing at, and was super sad when they did not. That said, last year got benched twice, and maybe he will get back to 2 years ago. But my thought would be it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle, right? So he's not going to remain a top 10 corner, and he's probably not, the 127th ranked corner according to PFF. But the other side is not very good, and their safeties are also, again, not great. So Julian Love is a pretty good player. I think he's a little bit overrated on that back end. Their pass defense was pretty atrocious. They didn't make any moves, in my opinion, that got them better now, except for making some sound moves in the draft. I like their edge groups, but none of them yet have kind of blossomed into a game wrecker. They do have former Bronco great Draymond Jones, who wasn't exactly like lighting the world on fire. So, so on offense, maybe let's go offense a little bit, just how they match up. Anything that you see that you find to be a matchup that makes you feel good, matchup that makes you feel not as good?
I don't know that I'm going to delve into the particular matchups. I think that right now, my concern is more on the defensive side of the ball than the offensive side of the ball, and our ability to cover their receivers outside of, whoever Pat Surtain is going to be on the side. And that's really kind of those secondary receivers. I think, Lockett, when he's healthy, is still productive and is a vet and can produce on offense. I think that
jumping the shark. I'm just asking about offense. Don't do it yet.
Okay. On offense. Offense. Our offense versus their defense. Sorry, I got that backwards.
No, you're good.
I think that Bo is going to have to stretch the field a little bit, and I think that will be an interesting thing to watch. I think it's really kind of dangerous to play underneath too much against Seattle. They do have some really physical safeties and corners that, they've kind of always been known to carry and roster. And so I think that you really got to be careful about those underneath routes and setting your guys, running receivers into those guys. If they're going to work that middle of the field, he's got to be really precise. You can't let a ball sail. You can't lead, Court or whomever across the middle into any of those guys. And so I think that's something that they need to keep an eye on. I'm interested to see where productivity comes from our tight end group and Dulcich in particular. And I think that this is an opportunity for him to kind of have a coming out party. I want to see how they use that group and who they use and what formations they kind of run to allow them to get open and stretch the field a little bit. I think Dulcich is one that obviously, when they drafted him, we talked about his receiver kind of skill set. Yeah. I mean, I think you've got to push that a little bit. You've got to give space and create space on this for this offense to be able to kind of start clicking and get into a rhythm.
Yeah, I like that. Dulcich, in agreement, is the matchup, right? So I think it's kind of a draw when you look at their secondary versus the Broncos receivers. I mean, you can look at it even according to PFF, right? Like it's pretty connected, within the same ballpark with all of those players. So in my opinion, it's really going to come down on whether or not this team can run. Just last year's defense, Mike McDonald might be better at scheming, but Pete Carroll was a defensive-minded coach. Like, they've always had pretty good defenses up in Seattle. And so my opinion is a little bit for all the draft picks we gave them. Right now, Witherspoon looks like the only dunk. Derek Hall, who was a part of their right edge rusher, was a part of those deals too, going back and forth. So you'd think that they would have more talent. I think if the Broncos really can run the ball, and I think they need to, even if it's for 3 yards a clip, one will break. Now you keep ramming in the dam. 1 3-yard run will finally be a 20-yard run or 30-yard run. And those kind of big plays equal points. I think the other piece, and especially with the volume, how loud it's be, just dead ball penalties, so mental errors, no false starts, no jump in the count, like all that good stuff. But I do think that offensive line is going to be the key. I think they're going to win this game, or the Broncos will lose because of some of their missteps. They're able to run the ball with any effectiveness, Bo Nix 0 sacks, I can guarantee that the Broncos win.
Yeah, and I'd agree. Like, I'm not worried so much about the pass rush of Seattle as much as I am about their ability to stuff the run and to get penetration up the middle. Leonard Williams is a guy who can push, put that pressure, disrupt in the pocket, get Bo on the move, which he can do. But I think you want your rookie quarterback to be as comfortable as possible, especially going into a place like Seattle. And so it's really going to be that interior offensive line that's got to hold up against these big bodies. Jonathan Hankins isn't a household name necessarily, but he's a big body and a run stuffer. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's someone that can create issues if we're not physical at the point of attack with that interior group. So totally agree with that.
Yeah. Well, all right. Now let's jump to defense. So here's the matchup that you were referring to earlier. And why don't you just keep rolling? You were on a hot roll.
No, I just, we have a lot of question marks still at that second CD position and beyond, really. Mathis got hurt. He won't be back for a little bit, so we're really going to have to test the depth of that group. I have hope that those guys can kind of hold up and at least in the short term be productive, as long as they're healthy as the season goes on and that wear and tear takes place, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, there's just some talented receivers on that other side, like I said, Tyler Lockett's a guy that's been around. He's been a household name for quite a while in Seattle. Someone who has had a hard time staying healthy, but in week one, it's looking like he's going to suit up and play and be okay. Obviously, a guy that I am high on for them is Jackson Smith and Jigba. I watched him play a lot of college ball. He popped in the preseason for them. Yeah, I know. He popped in the preseason. I think a lot of people are thinking that this could be a really solid season for him, especially if Lockett's unable to be healthy and suit up each game. He's going to become a second or third option for them on a regular routine basis. And then, I don't know that we fear Noah Fant, but you always have the fear that there's some sort of revenge factor coming in to a game against his old team. Now, the fact that we're removed from the old coaching staff and it's hopefully has made that fire burn out a little bit. But Fant can get open. He's got ability to stretch the field a little bit, and if we're not paying attention, he could burn you. So really, it's going to be that secondary, and specifically the corners against those pass catchers for me.
Yeah, I think even just back end cohesion, right? You don't have Justin Simmons anymore or Kareem Jackson, who really were in unison. They didn't give up a ton of big plays because they were in lockstep. Brandon Jones concerns me because he hasn't played yet at all. Yeah. As a Denver Bronco, so you hope, and hope is not a good strategy. Really like what I saw from PJ, but I also really like what I saw from Devon King, Kendron Smith. I thought both of those guys played really well. So would I feel good about them playing if they needed to on Sunday? I would, just because they're so fresh removed from game action. That I think the acclimation period is pretty good. I think as they sit or utilize less, I would be a little bit more hesitant to rely on that. The matchup again that I think will win this game is up front. Can this team get pressure one-on-ones without having to bring the house? Vance Joseph is also an aggressive defensive coordinator, but with a guy like Tyler Lockett, with Smith and Jigma and Jigba and Metcalf, those are guys that will go get it. Deep threats all the way around. If you're keeping them in check, but they hit an 80-yard bomb, that could be it. I don't know. I'm not under an illusion. I think that the Broncos will score 30, but so with that, you got to stay in the game. So make them earn all of it. Not impressed with their offensive line. Charles Cross really regressed last year, and their right tackle. Gosh dang it! What?
Fan.
No, that is who it is now. Who was it? From Washington State. Abraham Lucas. They kind of had the bookends. Lucas went down, and so they made a smart move and went and got Connor Williams to play center. I really like that addition. I think he's a good center. I don't think he's Creed Humphreys or those guys that you're going to probably just line up and smash. They do have two really, really good running backs, and Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. So I think that the talent is there. Not really about Noah Fant. It's like they didn't know how to use him last year either. I don't know that they're magically going to get him to lock in, even though they gave him money. We'll see. But we've seen him on good days. Noah Fant is a physical freak. So he is a guy that can take it to the house from tight end position. So they do have threats lining up and down on that roster. I think Geno Smith, again, he's good. Is he a guy that scares me? I don't think so. I think if you're able to get pressure in his face early, I think he's a guy that will see some ghosts. So I think that they have to get pressure. I think if they get pressure with 4 to 5 guys only, I think that this defense, with all the tenacity that they've shown throughout the preseason and in training camp, that's a hungry unit. And I'm really excited to see the tag, the rag tags, the guys with no names, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Come smack some dudes in the mouth. And I think that this version of the Denver Broncos is significantly more tough than it has been over the last few seasons. And I think that they're a place that you needed it. It's week 1 in Seattle with the loudness. I think they're still laughing at us about Russ. So I really think that this version of the Broncos fits Sean Payton, and I think that the team has been built that way. So I have confidence they're going to stop the run. I think the additions, Malcolm Roach, John Franklin Myers, et cetera, I think really will help batten down those hatches.
Yeah.
And so really then it's going to get to the quarterback, right? DK Metcalf will win 50-50 balls. I don't care if it's Pat Surtain on him or not. The guy's just different, right? Tyler Lockett will get behind Riley Moss at some point. Then the question is, can you get Smith to hurry it up where he's going to overthrow that ball or not be able to step into it, or the deep ball, or his accuracy is a little bit off on an in route to Metcalf that could be a big gainer, and either he throws it behind him and we're able to make a play, or it's not catchable. Like that, I think has to happen. Sacks would be great. Pressure is better. So with that being said, who's one player that you think has to have a good game for the Broncos?
Can we do one offense, one defense?
I was actually just, as I said it, I was like, I wonder if we should do offense, defense. So good call.
Okay. I think I'm going to start on the defensive side for the Broncos. Cool. And I want to say Zach Allen is kind of my X factor player.
I like it.
And I want to say that because I think that we need to get pressure from that defensive line group. And I think he's your most likely candidate to do that and get Geno Smith on the move at the very least to be disruptive in the pocket. I think that he is one that we're kind of waiting for that breakout moment for him. I think everyone's kind of like, ever since we got him from Arizona, we're like, all right, we see the talent. We've seen the culmination of all these things. It's a new team. Now we're a year in. Let's see a little bit of a breakout from Zach Allen. And I think he's one that possesses the ability to bring some pressure up the middle, and B is just kind of primed to have one of those seasons potentially. So that's where I'm going to go with on the defensive side.
I like it. I'm going to go with Riley Moss. I think none of us really know how well this is going to go.
Yeah.
And all of the other white cornerbacks looking up to him, like that, the potential to ruin the position for everybody. You know?
It's true.
He's a trailblazer, and he's got a lot of eyes watching.
Yep.
But that said, I think everyone is concerned about that. I bet in the building too, there is some. It's just unknown. Riley Moss is a good physical specimen, really smart. Iowa produces them some good defensive backs, no doubt. So that he got the coaching in the process. We just don't have tape. Good news is, neither do they. Bad news is, neither do we. So I think if Riley Moss plays well, I have a ton of confidence that Pat Surtain is going to play just fine. Even his rough games are better than most people's regular games. Yep. So I think if Riley plays well, I think, if your outside corner guys are playing good football, they're probably not getting many plays through the air. And if they got to try and ground and pound it for 60 minutes, I just don't think that Seattle is built like that. So with that being said, let's go to offense. Who do you think on offense has to have a good day for a Broncos win on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm torn between two. Why don't you go first? Because I want to see who you pick and see if it narrows down my choices.
Javonte Williams, and or the running game. I think if the Broncos run the ball 25 times or more, and they average over 4 yards a carry, I think Broncos win. I think if that means they're eclipsing 100 yards at a good rate. So even if it's there were 3 big runs in there, good, sweet. I'll take a whole bunch of 1, 2, 3 yard runs and break off a few to really bump up that average. That means we probably scored on those drives at least a field goal. So I think if we look and Javonte's stats are 26 rushes, 109 yards, and a touchdown, the Broncos win.
Yeah, that was one of my options. So thank you for narrowing it down for me. And just to add on to that, I think.
Whoa. No! You don't let me get a pick and then you get to add on.
Well, you said the running game, and I just want to remind people that you can kind of factor in Bo Nix to the running game. I don't know that that's where you want him to be. I don't know that's where we want to see the most.
I do. I want to see if he can run the ball 4 or 5 times, and he's at 30 yards. You assume that a few of those most of them are probably first downs, right? Like he has a knack for that. So I think that's a very astute point.
My pick is gonna be, I'll say Josh Reynolds, but it could be Mims, it could be whoever we find to be that secondary receiving option. With the departure of Tim Patrick, it does feel just slightly less seasoned, slightly less proven wide receiver room. Though I think the talent and upside is great. Coming into game one, I don't know if I feel as good as I would have having Tim Patrick in that room. I'm assuming, the veteran play of Josh Reynolds will kind of show its head, but, we know that he's had problems with drops in the past. Not always the most sound receiver. So I just want to see consistency from that group. I want to see ability to make some plays after the catch, get some yak, so to speak. Obviously, we know Cortland's going to do his thing. He's always a threat when he's out there. But it'll be interesting to see kind of emerge as that secondary receiving option. But right now, I'll give the nod to Reynolds, even though, it's Marvin Mims' season to kind of take off.
Yeah. Nice job, Cam. And if anyone else, you want to throw in your key players for Sunday's game against the Seattle Seahawks, please do. So I agree with you also. Okay. Nice job.
Totally.
Well, I think we're into prediction time. So let's chat about what we think about week 1, and then we're gonna roll into the season and pick the rest.
Okay.
All right. So go first.
Yeah, I'm gonna predict a loss for the Broncos. I hate to do it. It's just a tough atmosphere. It's a really tough first game for Bo to go in, and it's going to be an eye-opening experience, I think, for him. Like, this is what there's not many more places in the league that's as loud as that field in Seattle. So I'll be interested to see how he handles the pressure. I'll be interested to see if they can minimize the mistakes. I think that's kind of a big factor for me, is that I would tend to think that we'll see more of those false starts, just not having everyone quite on the same page all the time. Yeah. Maybe some early timeouts. And then it'll really test his composure, and I think that those are all factoring into a potential loss. But I will say, I think that they'll cover the spread, which as I think right now is at -6. I think it'll be a 21-24 loss. for the Broncos.
I got a good feeling. I think the Broncos are going to win. Probably because they haven't won like an opener in a long time. Two,
it's very fair.
Two, I think Sean's going to be in his bag. I think they're going to work on some stuff and probably have that the league hasn't seen yet from him for a plethora of reasons. But first and foremost, you got a quarterback that can do everything he wants to do. So Bo Nix doesn't have a limitation to his game. He might not do something, he might not be a master at all of the things, but he is definitely good at a lot. And I think that extension or Sean Payton now can utilize him as an extension of the head coach of what he wants to see on offense. I think that this defense is going to surprise people, especially early. I think it's a lot of guys back from last year. I think that with that, there's some continuity in maintaining most of those positions. If Brandon Jones plays, I feel really good about their secondary. And if Riley Moss is the one concern, I think it's pretty easy to rotate coverage over. And, PS2, you got that bag. Do what you do. And the last time he, as in PS2, matched up with DK Metcalf, he had a phenomenal game. They went back and forth. DK is no joke. But Pat isn't either. And so I feel pretty good about that. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game than maybe we're worried about. I think this offense will roll. I think Seattle has a good offense. So I think it's going to be 27-24. 27-24 Broncos.
Nice.
Cam chimed in. Go Broncos. So with that being said, I know that I'm right, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's go over the schedule. So JT has our Broncos 0-1 to start. Shocker.
Shocker, I know, right?
No, but it is a tough place. It's super loud. All those things. It is also, Cam actually put this in the comments. It's a stark contrast from last time that the Broncos played in Seattle, where they had the rookie head coach, and Seattle had the Grizzly vet, and now flip it. In-game management is hard. That is a hard jump from being a coordinator to managing the whole outfit. I bet that there will be some clunkiness to the outfit and how they're prepared in Seattle. Not saying that Mike McDaniel don't know what he's doing or put together stuff, but I think it just happens. I think Sean Payton is now more comfortable second year. I think we'll see some of his out-coaching capability. And again, Sean Payton wants Bo to look really good and progress. And so I have no doubt that his game planning will be everything that Bo feels comfortable with, and not asking him to do stuff he's not. And I think with that, that'll be there. So Broncos return home to face the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Steeler captain Russell Wilson, who won the job against Justin Fields. And this was a game I was super worried about before. Not that I'm not worried about it, because that defense is legit.
Yeah.
But not the same. I think their offensive line, they adjust a few spots, but still need a little bit more. Russ is a guy that will run into sacks. And outside of George Pickens, Pat Fairmouth is a pretty good player, but they don't really have any other threats outside. I like their running backs. But again, I think that the Broncos' run defense will be much improved. So I'll go first this time. I think that this is a dud. So I feel good with them coming back. It'll be Liddy, as the kids say, and I think the Broncos will come out actually with a 2-0 start.
All right. I can respect that. I also think that this will be a win for the Broncos. And I think that, again, you've got to overcome a defense that's pretty stout, pretty proven. You've got Cameron Hayward, who's always, just a stalwart for that defense. TJ Watt, who's always going to be a problem for opposing offenses. Patrick Queen is a guy that I like that came over from their rival in the Ravens.
Yeah.
So I think they have a lot of pieces on defense that worry me. However, I just think that they have really nothing to fear so much right now on the offensive side of the ball. I don't really fear Russ anymore now. Could he have a game where he comes out and lights us up? Because same fear that I had with Noah Fant, maybe. But Pickens is your guy. If you can kind of keep a good eye on him, I don't really fear Van Jefferson that much. I think he's a good receiver, not a great receiver. I think they have an injury to Samolo, who's a the guard, left guard. They've got some injuries up and down the roster. What's his name? Jalen Warren, I think, is banged up a little bit. I don't know if he's going to play. So there's a lot of question marks, I think, on the offensive side of the ball, and I think that leaves an opportunity for the Broncos to kind of exploit. It may be a grinded out kind of game, but I'm going to give the Broncos a good job.
I like it. All right, well, go Broncos. So with that, we're going to move on to week 3 on the road, East Coast early game. Last year's NFC South champions and your favorite quarterback, Baker Mayfield.
I love it.
I think it's a loss. I think Tampa Bay is a good football team. I think their defense underperformed some last year. I think that they'll perform much better this season. Have a ton of talent on offense. And Chris Godwin, obviously. Mike Evans is brought back. Kid Otten is a good tight end. And Rashad White is a fantastic receiver out of the backfield. Not that great running the ball, but I like Bucky Irving too. I think that was a really good addition. Still sketchy a little bit up front. They do have some couple cornerstones and some guys that have played a little bit better. But I think if they were an area where I would be concerned offensively, that would be for them. That would be the offensive line. And the secondary on defense, even though you have All-Pro and Antoine Whitfield in the back end, the second, and Jameel Dean, yes, maybe corner. Anyway, good player. So, I think they're going to take an L there. What about you?
I think it's a loss. It's a seasoned team. It's a team that isn't really that far removed from really successful seasons with Tom Brady. There's a lot of veteran guys on this team. I think it's a really tough offense with as many questions as we have about our secondary. Even if you can shut down Mike Evans, which you really can't, Godwin can tear you up. I think Kate Otten's a pretty good tight end. And then you've got some decent mainstays on the defensive side of the ball, Levante David and Vita Vea, our monsters, physical beasts. And so I just think that we're a little slightly overmatched at this point. I think the veteran presence of Tampa Bay gives them the edge.
Nice. All right. The next week, pivotal game, first game in the division. Broncos host the Las Vegas Raiders. Quick thoughts. What do you got?
Yeah, I think I do not fear the Raiders. There's not really an aspect of their roster that concerns me all that much. I do think that they have capable receivers. I think we saw Pat Surtain struggle last year against the Raiders for whatever reason. And Devontae Adams is a talented receiver, so you can't really fault him for that, a veteran guy. But outside of that, there's a big question mark at the running back position for them. I think it may be a committee situation for them down the road as the season goes on. We got a big question mark at the tight end position for them, which has some upside for sure. Powers is a talented dude. I think he could be a legit player in this league. But again, if you're counting on a rookie tight end to be your best offensive player, I think you're in trouble. So ultimately, I think the Broncos and the coaching staff for the Broncos are soundly better than the Raiders.
Yes, for all those points. I think this is the year that the Broncos get some traction against the Raiders. I think the Raiders will still be I think they're a tough team. I don't think Antonio Pierce made really good in-game decisions if you watch some of them. So the totality of the position, I think it was much more the rally around the incoming interim coach. So outside of a few players, like you said. I really like Christian Wilkins. I really like, obviously, Max Crosby.
Yeah.
And they have a few pieces about Devontae Adams, Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers on offense. I don't know that they know how to use them.
Right.
So we'll see. Offensive line, I think, is outside of Colton Miller is still not very great. So I have that as a dub. Next week, they follow up with the Los Angeles Chargers. I actually think that this will be a loss.
Okay.
If Justin Herbert is playing, he's really struggled with the plantar fasciitis stuff going on. I think that Jim Harbaugh will come in with a pretty good game plan. I think their defense will be much improved. Brandon Staley, I don't know what happened, but the guy forgot defensive football.
That's true.
And Jim Harbaugh is a guy, smash mouth, take big plays when they're there and play really good defense. And I think that's maybe what Los Angeles, the Chargers should have been trying to do, but instead they kind of really focused on airing it out and, let's show off our new toy and Justin Herbert. And it got him hurt a lot. Dude's a trooper, but he's getting his head kicked in. And, you got some good players on defense, but some aging guys, and I think their style probably wasn't conducive to keeping some of those guys fresh, Joey Bosa, et cetera. So I think that this one will be a loss. I wouldn't be shocked, obviously. I think that these teams are probably a little bit more even than anything, but I think the team comes back down from orbit just a little bit. So I got them starting in the first 5 games, 3-2. JT, what is your 4 and 2? 1, 2. Nope, I skipped 1.
Oh, 4. Well, 3 and 2. You'll have them at 3 and 2.
Yeah. So I'll have them at 3 and 3 because I'll have them losing to the Jets. So what do you got? Jets and Chargers. Since I skipped the Jets.
All right, I think you skipped my prediction, but that's all right.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it's going to be a win.
Chargers, and I didn't do the Jets either. So, yeah. So you think for the Chargers is a win?
Yeah, I think the Chargers is a win. I think that they're a talented team. I think they are an aging team. And by week 5, I don't know that they're going to be a healthy team. And I think that that's going to be a big factor for them. Love James Derwin. He's a dog. Love Joey Bosa as a player when he's healthy. Khalil Mack can play, but like you said, Herbert's been kind of futzing around with an injury issue. Their offensive line has gotten better. I think, obviously Rashawn Slater's a stud. They have some good pieces, but I just don't know really what to expect from this team overall.
Yeah.
DJ Chark and Joshua Palmer are your top receivers.
You know what? You talked me into it. I'm switching my pick. The Broncos win. They beat the Chargers. I thought, maybe they would, but I think that this New York Jets game will humble them. I had that one as a loss. So
yeah, I think that's a loss for me too. And it's just there's a lot of talent on that Jets team.
Yeah,
and that's just the bottom line. And even on where they were a defensive stalwart, I think for a lot of years, even though they didn't have offensive productivity, when you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, it just elevates the team. Whether you like him or not, he's going to make that offense better.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson's a stud. He's a star, I think, in this league. Breece Hall is going to have, he's going to have a nice season. I think as long as he's healthy, they're going to be productive on the offense.
Malachi Corley they brought to play in the slot. He's a talented dude. Mike Williams is, if he's healthy, is I think a really good number 2.
And you still got guys like Quinton Williams, CJ Mosley on the defensive side of the ball. I think that they are a more complete team than people are expecting them to be, especially now that they've got a competent quarterback. So I'm going to give a loss for this one as well.
Good call. Now roll us into Thursday night. So right now, going into week 7, you have the Broncos 3 and 3. I have them 4 and 2. New Orleans Saints Thursday night. What'd you say?
I think that this is a win for the Broncos. And I think that a big part of it is going to be the Sean Payton factor. I just think that obviously, there are going to be teams that are familiar with each other. But I think if you're going down head to head, Sean Payton's going to have your advantage of coaching versus most of the coaches in the league, and with he's got a pretty pretty intimate relationship with some of those players that were on that team before, and he's got an intimate knowledge of them and how to stop them. Obviously they're going to do their best to thwart him, but I don't believe in Derek Carr. I just don't.
He's not there anymore. Just kidding.
I was like, what, really? Alvin Kamara is good. I think he's still a good player, but he's aging as well. And for running back, who knows when you can fall off that cliff. Chris Olave is one player, and I think there's an argument that he's a wide receiver one, but I think that for a wide receiver one, he's not necessarily a game breaker. So I just think that there's a lot of question marks there.
Yeah, I like a lot of New Orleans parts. I think the sum of parts hasn't been that great. I agree with you. I think Derek Carr has his moments. I think he's a good player, not a great player. And I think that Sean Payton wants this game. I think that they want to beat him too, but I think he wants to come back a little bit and show them what they're missing. So both of us have that as a dub. They come home week 8 against Carolina. Not going to talk a lot about that because Carolina's bad at football. So I'm going to chuck this up to a dub.
Yeah, I think it's a win also. Just not enough talent on that roster still. Though they have pieces, it's just not enough, I don't think.
Now to, I think, probably the most difficult stretch
of
the season. So Baltimore, Kansas City on the road, come back for what potentially might be a division leading Atlanta Falcons team, and then a tough Raiders team. So I'm going to hit you with my block just for time's sake. And then you can let me know what you think. So I think that they will go 2-2 over this stretch. I think they will lose to Baltimore and to Kansas City on the road. I think those teams, in my eyes, just are better football teams, and they're going to be at home. And I think if the Broncos do come out with a pretty good, record, right, and they're looking pretty good, I think that will help both of those teams get up for this game. So I don't think that they'll sleepwalk into playing the Broncos. I think the Broncos will win at home against the Falcons. My prediction is that this game is going to get flexed to primetime, which means that Kirk Cousins will be terrible. So I like what Atlanta's done, but they've kind of just put pieces together. I don't know. We don't know what their offense is going to look like. A lot of revolving pieces. Love Justin Simmons going there. So I think that their secondary look improved. They still don't have a really consistent pass rush. I think their defensive line outside of Grady Jarrett is So I think that the Broncos will bounce back and win that game, and I think they'll sweep the Raiders this year. And I think it's a little blasphemous for me to say so, considering they haven't beat them since COVID. But I have a feeling that this one, it'll be personal now, and I think Sean Payton will get the guys prepared. What do you think over this 4-game stretch? What do you have as the Broncos record?
I think that they probably go 1-3. It's just hard. The Falcons are a team that's inconsistent in my mind, but I think that they've got more consistency at the most important position, which is quarterback. And so I think bringing in a guy like Justin Simmons is a big boon for them. And I think that elevates them just slightly over the Broncos. So I have them going 1-3 over that stretch. So the one win coming against the Raiders.
Good call. All right. I'm going to let you lead with week 13, the bye, week 15, and week 16. What do you got?
I've got a win versus the Colts. Oh, sorry. I skipped one. A win versus the Browns. The fact that they're home, I think, is a differentiating factor in my mind for this. We've played on the road against the Browns. They can be tough at home. Ultimately, I think, I think there's just a lot of I feel the same way about the Browns as you do about the Saints. There's good pieces. I don't know about the cohesion. I don't know about the ability to play together necessarily. Maybe if we get healthy-ish Nick Chubb, that could turn tides against the Broncos in my mind, but who knows what he's going to look like coming back off of injury. They've got to be able to contain a guy like Njoku. But I think, again, health is going to be a big factor. I think the Broncos can win that game.
I like it. I think that the Broncos over this 4-week stretch, adding the bye week, so the 3 games available, I think that they will go. I think 2-1. I think one of the games will sneak up. I want to say 3-0 because I think that they should beat all of these teams. I think Deshaun Watson is a shell of himself, and the sooner that they bench him, probably the better they'll be.
Yeah.
Indianapolis, I think they're just not there yet. Like something's missing. Maybe put my thumb on it. Have some good young defensive pieces. Anthony Richardson athletically is just different. We'll see. He's only had 4 games under his belt. Not a lot of time in college, so I think that one's a pretty strong dub. And maybe the Chargers kind of get it together by this time, and they're a little bit different outfit than maybe the Broncos see earlier. And so maybe that one's a loss. So I think they're going to lose one of the Chargers or the Browns, and I think being on the road against the Chargers, it's probably that one. So
I'll say the same. I think it's going to be a 2-1 over that stretch of 3 games against both Chargers. I think you potentially could lose to the Chargers in that team just because it's hard to win 2 against opponent.
Yeah. So fair enough. So right now you have the Broncos at 8-6 going into their final 2-game stretch. Is that right? 8-7. Sorry.
8-7. Yeah.
7 going into their final 2-game stretch. What do you got? Do the Broncos finish with the win?
I actually think the Broncos will win one of their last 2 games. I don't know that they'll win both. There's a good chance they could lose both. But again, I'm not sure. We're not sure what's going on with Jamar Chase. I don't know that he'll be sitting in December. But I don't know what that team's going to look like overall. I think they lost some pieces. They've lost some cohesion. I think if you're going to win a game, it's probably against the Bengals. And I just don't know that we can win another one against the Chiefs this year, though. I won't put it past them. It's a home game. It's a possibility, but I think they probably go 1-1. So giving me a 9-8 record for the season.
I like it. I have them going 1-1 also. I do think that they beat the Chiefs.
Okay.
So I think Seattle in December on the road.
Yeah, I guess my big question is is Joe Burrow going to be healthy? I don't think they did anything to improve that offensive line, and so that's always my concern.
Yeah, I mean it is the equalizer because it's Joey plays every other year, and this is supposed to be the on year. So we'll see. But they had guys got hurt. Wide receiver room last year. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase set out some games, so there was a lot of mix and match pieces there. I think their defense is pretty good. Not a great secondary, but pretty sound everywhere else. So I think that that'll be a tough matchup. And I think the Broncos will play Kansas City tough in both games, and I think they'll come out with a dub. So I have them at 11-6. I'm gonna I feel like it's more of like a 10-7 team. My optimism, but I think we have them kind of in the same ballpark. So I think they'll be playing meaningful games at the end of the season with a chance to go to the playoffs. But again, that's why they play the game. So excited for the season to kick off on Sunday. Any lasting thoughts? Floor is yours, man.
It's Broncos season. It's coming up on us. This is a chance to be optimistic before the season starts. So let's get after it. Give us your predictions. Hit us up on Twitter. We got to run. Unfortunately, we're up against it today. But glad we got to do this with y'all. Glad we got to do our predictions and let us know what you think. Otherwise, thank you again. Make sure that you catch all the Broncos action with us this year on Wednesdays at 2:30. And if you need a sports prescription, call a doctor.
Let's go, Broncos.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame miles.